Hello and welcome to Recyclist. My name is Eric Provost, and this is part 2 of my interview with Dr. Yalan Liu. Let's go ahead and jump right back in to the conversation, and if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, make sure to do that. I was going to ask about how confident are you that you could potentially find like a permanent solution? Because you've already mentioned treatments for solid waste helping to reduce the black goo, but with the aspect that's such a multifaceted issue at this point, because not only is it clogging up all these pumps and all these lines, but uh, well, what you're saying is basically every landfill, depending on the type of waste and the types of volumes of waste that they get, the black goo can have entirely different compositions, completely resistant to treatments that other landfills are being successful with.
I think there's no one size fit all solution for Black Goo.
Yeah.
In terms of permanent solution at this stage, we don't really really know if there is a permanent solution. It really depends on what is causing the formation of Black Goo. Why some landfills have it, others don't. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we have some hypothesis that we're still testing, but I really think it's a combination of the waste material contributing to it, but also the leachate characteristics that are contributing to it. So I don't know if there is a permanent solution. There might be things we could do to reduce its formation. For
Hmm.
example, one thing that we notice is black goo is usually formed at the stagnant zones where the leachate flow is low. So
Okay.
if we can maybe design the system in a way that avoid any stagnant zones, that might help with the black goo clogging. And let's say if, because we found, and Dr. Benson also found this, that the chemical composition of black goo is very similar to this synthetic polymer that we use in diapers and meat pads,
Hmm.
hygienic pads, or dewatering agent that we use to reduce the moisture in the sewage sludge, right? So if that's one of the reasons that contributing to the formation, do we just not put diapers in our landfill? Like, that doesn't sound like a something that's practical to do. So I think it would be a more the solution would be more like how do we design the system to reduce that clogging and and one thing that I think is really important is black goo, if it's really from diaper and other things, when you put water into those polymer, that's super absorbent agent that's going to swell up
Yeah.
in a big volume. So how do they get pass through the leachate collection system that get into the pipes? So there must be something that in the leachate that are helping them dissolve back into the leachate and pass through the collection system, and then they would reform again in the pipe. So if we are able to find what is the thing that contributing to the goo dissolve back in the leachate, getting into the pipe, and then reform back, then there could be some solution that we can look into.
Yeah, because I know that all the people who are listening to this that have already identified that as an issue, I'm sure the first question that's popping into their head is, how much is it going to cost me to deal with this issue?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know that there's a lot of small things that can be done, and obviously, if you are at one of those landfills where treatment options have helped reduce the formation of black goo, absolutely do that. But I know that you said when we first started talking that you've spoken to landfill operators who've already written off entire leachate collection systems,
Yeah.
which can cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if this is an issue that engineers and landfill operators are noticing, like there's the potential for this to become incredibly costly.
Right, right, for sure. So, if we go with the tempered solution like acid flushing,
Yeah.
hot water jetting, chemical treatment, um, we said, it comes back, right? So it's not just one time treatment, it's gone. So you're looking at some recurring costs sometimes, no, usually like twice per year, or sometimes every few months, or even weeks. So that really adds up quickly in your labor, your equipment, and downtime. Now, some landfills, they told us they are able to contain or maintain or control their black goo issues just by doing their regular cleaning that they usually do for other types of clogging.
Hmm.
But still, usually we're looking at tens of thousands of dollars per year to do the temporary flushing and cleaning. If we're looking at permanent solution, I'm not sure if there is permanent solution or not, but let's say if we want to explore redesigning parts of the leachate collection system to avoid that stagnant area, then we might be looking at a very high upfront cost.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
know you said there's likely not a one size fits all solution,
Mhm.
but maybe down the line there's the potential to discover something that, can at least be tailored, a plan that at least can be
Yeah.
tailored depending on the type of black goo, the viscosity, the physical makeup of it, and other factors.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. If we know, uh, like, for example, one thing that we're trying to test is looking at the percentage of this polymer in the black goo.
Hmm.
So maybe, some black goo with a very high percentage of this polymer, it might be hard to treat, but other black goo with a smaller percentage of the polymer, but other like more percentage of other metal oxides, then we might be able to treat it with acids and other things. And one thing that's really interesting is when I was talking to a landfill that has been dealing with black goo, they said all the chemical treatment they tried, it didn't work, but they were able to use some type of physical treatment to really reduce the black goo clogging. Is they would raise their leachate level in their sump, and that kind of increased the pressure to flush it more, and that really,
Basically, grinding it up, correct?
yeah, 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 basically flush it out and increase that flow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, if you don't mind, I'd like to get into the weeds a little bit about the big recent research project that you completed in terms of looking into black goo, the one that you recently presented to Swana,
Mhm.
if we may.
Yeah, yeah. So that is we haven't really completed it. That
Okay.
project we started a few months ago, in 2024, like November-ish. So that's a project funded by the Hinckley Center for Solid and Hazardous Waste. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that
Hmm.
center. That's a center that specifically, it's a center in Florida that fund specific research about solid waste management. So we are working with the University of Central Florida to look at this mysterious black goo issue. So we've been taking a two-part approach. We've been testing a lot of black goo, of course, to see what is the composition of it. Are they Do they have similar composition across different sites, or within the same sites at different spots? Those that collected from leachate collection system versus those collected from gas well extraction system. Do they look the same? Then we also have I think it's a very key part is to have a statewide survey with landfill operators across Florida. Of course, we were also talking to landfills outside of Florida, but the
Yes.
idea is, even if we know the composition of black goo, I think it's still very important to figure out what is causing it. And I know some landfills are dealing with black goo, others are not dealing with black goo. So is the a reason that are contributing to the formation. So by talking to different landfill operators and getting a broad
Yeah.
view about their landfill operation, the waste that they're collecting, or
And if you don't mind, very quickly, I know you said you spoke to a couple landfills outside of Florida.
yeah,
How big is that net for this survey? How far outside of Florida are we talking? Like Mississippi, Georgia, or are you reaching out to like the Midwest, like Oregon and even Washington, even?
we've been reaching out to Pennsylvania, Mississippi, and Canada. Like we want to talk to anyone that are willing to talk to us, basically.
Canada, so international, so that's a fairly big net.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've been getting a lot of good information, and they're really, um, you know, cooperative.
Yeah, I know. I apologize. I interrupted you, but I think you were going into. I saw in your research that there were a few correlations and a few similar factors that you think may have causality and may be contributing factors. I think that's what you were about to start talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So now, well, we're still testing it, but I think now, I don't want to say or like say anything
Definitively,
before
yeah.
we are certain about this. But I think what our hypothesis is there are certain conditions in the leachate
Okay.
that are causing those polymers to break down, like I said before, to pass through the drainage layer. And then when the conditions change in the pipe, they will reform in the
Okay.
pipe and sump. And when that flow slows down, they they would clog up certain areas.
Yeah. Yeah, you just mentioned your hypothesis. I was wondering if you were operating under an actual hypothesis with this, or whether or not this survey was just like a fact-finding survey or something. So beyond the one you just mentioned, is that kind of the main one, the main hypothesis that you're moving forward with? Hopefully after you learn more, you'll be able to generate more, or kind of how many hypotheses you currently operating under? I don't know if that's the right way to ask.
Yeah, yeah. I think now from the survey, it did seem like the landfills that accepting certain special waste
Hmm.
are more likely to have black goo. So we have now there are different hypotheses we're testing.
Of course.
One thing that we want to know is no, the one thing that we learned from the survey. Of course, we haven't really talked to too many, so it's not like a statistically different. But one thing that we notice is landfills that say they have black goo, they all accept sewage sludge. So we want to test the dewatering agent that people have been using in the sewage sludge. Are they similar to the black goo composition? Right? Could that be something that contributing to the black goo formation? And then we want to test. Now there are different types of synthetic polymer that have been used. So we want to test: is there a specific polymer, the polysaccharide, that are contributing to the black goo that have similar structure as black goo?
Hmm.
And then we are also testing the leachate condition. Is there a specific leachate condition that could, you know, make that polymer dissolve, pass through the drainage layer, and reform? So yeah, there are several hypotheses we're testing so far, um, but yeah, stay tuned.
And you said you've been working on this research since November.
Yes, so it's only been a few months, but we learned a lot. This research will go on for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so we have University of Central Florida collaborating with us on this.
Go Knights.
Yeah. And we've been talking to different companies that have have a lot of experience dealing with different types of clogging, including the black goo. So they've been really helpful as well. in terms of connecting us with the different operators and giving us their insights about hypothesis. So yeah, it's been wonderful.
Nice. I know you said this research is planning to extend through the end of 2025. Do you already have kind of a long term, at least an idea for long term, kind of where you want to go in your evolution of learning more about and hopefully finding solutions for the Black Goo issue?
Yeah, yeah. So right now, this year's project is we're focusing on understanding what Black Goo is, and by the survey, getting a lot of data, understanding or potentially pinpoint the reasons that are causing the formation of Black Goo. Now, later, we want to look at the treatment, right? Once we know what it is, we want to know what kind of things can we do to treat it, to help the operators in the long term.
Yeah, I'm sure if you saved them a few $100,000, they would be very appreciative of that. And I mean, since you and your associates are the ones really kind of spearheading this, maybe they'll let you actually give a proper scientific name to this Black Goo issue. Maybe you could even call it Liu Goo.
You could, well, well, actually, Black Goo is the name that Dr. Benson named it when he first studied it, and now everybody's using the same name. But I do
Uh,
think like Black Goo, I feel like this is a more interesting name. Like it calls attention. If we call it another scientific name, it might not be something that people wanna know.
it
Or
is
wanna
it,
learn.
Black Goo is very evocative, isn't it? It's
Yes.
one of those things that catches people's ear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I like the name.
I will say, you said you're still looking for other landfills to give input on Black Goo, correct?
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, we have quite a bit of, we operate within the landfill industry. I'm sure there's quite a few uh, people who operate at landfills potentially listening to this podcast. How
Mhm.
can they reach out to you if they would like to? Is like, hey, I think I've got a Black Goo issue, and they'd like to reach out about passing some information or talking to you about potential solutions. How can they get in contact?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear from anyone who's experiencing Black Goo issues. Uh, Either it's in their leachate system, in their gas wells, or if they're not experiencing Black Goo, but they want to contribute to our study, I would love to talk to them as well. Or if they have any other type of clogging issues in their landfills, like the mineral clogging, the biofilm buildup. We also want to study the difference between Black Goo and other types of clogging. So
Mm-hmm.
I would love to talk to any landfill operators that are interested in the study. They can contact me directly at my email, yalanliu@fau.edu. Yeah, we're actively collecting data and collaborating with operators, so it would be really helpful to talk to more of them to strengthen our research.
Nice. Well, hopefully we can get you a few more contributors. Hopefully we can all help with the research into this Black Goo, and as a community, help Dr. Liu find a solution that benefits all of us. And I'm going to leave you with this one question, Yalan.
Yeah.
What do you think is potentially the most interesting or surprising thing that you've come across while you've been researching Black Goo?
Hmm. The very interesting thing is how widespread and how like different types of landfills are all experiencing this.
Hmm.
Even the landfills, like even the ash landfills, like that only accept ash after the garbage is being burned. They
Yeah.
are also seeing this. Uh, Even the construction demolition waste landfills that supposed to be inert that people think they're experiencing this, and municipal solid waste landfills, of course. So that's been very a little surprising. And another thing that I think it's really important is this is not just for landfill operators. It's not just a weird landfill nuance. It's an emergent issue that could really impact the safety of landfills that is relevant to every one of us.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for our listeners to help you help them, and I hope that a lot of people reach out to you. I hope that the research continues to be as gooey and interesting as it seems to have already been. But once again, Yalan, I would love to thank you for coming on here and talking about Black Goo and your research. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having me. And again, I would love to have more operators reaching out to us and share about your insights. Thank you.
Awesome. One last time, give them your email address, please, Yalan.
Yes, it's yalanliu@fau.edu. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Make sure to reach out to Dr. Liu over at Florida Atlantic University. And once again, thank you to her for appearing today on Recyclist. And just a reminder, Recyclist is a registered trademark of Diamond Scientific, an industry leader in gas analysis, instrumentation, and solutions. Make sure to reach out to them online at diamondsci.com. That's diamondsci.com. Or you can even call to set up a personalized presentation by calling 321 223 7500. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for another brand new episode of Recyclist. We will see you next time. I've been your host, Eric Provost, and everybody have a nice day.